Thank you very much. I have not voted because I have problem with my, but I'm Adel Ben Youssef. I'm responsible of Chapter 5 of Decarbonization and Energy Transition for the MEDEC, for the Mediterranean. So just to say that AI, we are already using it. It's not something new. Most of the software are based on things that using AI, even to assess the literature review. As economists, we are using it. But the idea is not use or not use, is to double check. And this is where, because in order to faster the process, we are using it for text mining, understanding a lot of things. It's scientific methodology. But then we need to be careful about the hallucination, the false claims, and the things like this. And this is the double process. We use it in order to fast the process, and then we double check if the knowledge is well or not. And this is what more or less our role within the process. So it's not about use, not use. It's already done, I think. Sorry for that.
But that refers to the word verification. That is part of it as well. Yes, exactly. Yeah. Any other comment on dilemmas that you would like to bring up?
Just a quick one on the, I think, so I put a thing about cross-check multiple AI. So one was about this idea of, it can be a helpful starting point and then you cross-check. But also, I think on the point of languages, I think there are some emerging LLMs that are not built just on English language. So for example, there's a Southeast Asian language model that's coming up. That could open more forms of local indigenous knowledge to this sort of review. So if you use multiple AI tools, then you can corroborate, triangulate a little bit. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I guess language is a very subtle thing because language is also a way to frame or to interpret. And so using English as a baseline for everything that already provides some kind of a calibration to something that is maybe not representative for everything. So I think this is a very useful extension of the AI machinery, that you don't rely on English as a benchmark, but use other languages. That's a very good point. Yeah.
Okay, before I comment, a gentleman there wants to, please.
Yep, thank you so much. By the way, I'm doing also my literature review on the ancestral knowledge in the marine space. I mean, AI has been very helpful, but we need to verify. But I think what we also need to be also cautious, not like careful about, is like one of the inequalities about the epistemic inequality, right? So we want to make sure that we have the right maybe keywords to ensure that different worldview can be accommodated in the IPCC assessment. So yeah, that's something that I'd like to contribute.
Thanks. It's a helpful contribution. And on that point as well, there are inclusivity issues in terms of who has access to AI that we also have to consider. That it will, I think it's probably will be reflected in the notes there and will be discussed in the workshop. So there are some very tricky issues that have been raised, and I'm glad that this engagement has flagged that. One other point before we move to the last question is that some of the other intergovernmental bodies and other groups have started using AI. Apart from yourself, there's also, I believe, IPBES and other folks that have some sort of initial protocol in terms of how to develop and use artificial intelligence. Just like us, in terms of assessments, I think there's a red line in not using the large language models to do the assessment, but as an enabler, as a way to bring in new forms of literature with some caveats and with a lot of guidance. That could be the way to go, and we hope that your inputs will help to frame and calibrate the discussions and the guidelines that will take place during the meeting in the UK in February. So on to the next question, which is continues the theme of artificial intelligence. A few things. Do you think the IPCC should use large language models for a few things, such as to interrogate, assess material, or review comments, to assess the curriculum vitae or CVs of individuals nominated as authors, to use AI to generate text, to use AI to generate graphical material, or never. I'm not sure what, this is interesting. I don't have a feel for what the feedback. So this will be quite fun. Andre, just tell us how many. One answer so far. Let us know when we reach about double digits. I'm just waiting to see who votes for this. I've been told that you can also vote for multiple options if, yeah, rather than just. Oh, there's a question. Yes.
Because the verification came up quite a bit. And so if we're saying, yes, it should be used with verification in place, is that a good assumption to make? Okay.
If it's to be used, but to verify, there are caveats and there are conditions in place. But yeah, but.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think you can use this as conditioned on that we make appropriate use of AI that follows procedures that are set out by IPCC. So that needs we secure verification, transparency, etc. Yeah. We have 11 entries using AI to generate texts. So we would provide the panel a summary for policymakers that contains text that are generated by a large language model. Is that a scenario that you would endorse? Or would that be a scenario that you really would say no way? But apparently there is endorsement for that. Can anyone yeah, but let's put it sharp. This is text going to be produced as a summary for policymakers, submitted for approval by the IPCC panel. Is that allowed?
Take a look at some of them.
Hello, yesterday here. I don't think all these questions can be absolute. So it's all relative in the game. In my opinion, generating text is you've had a meeting, you've had your phone, it's been listening to everybody, you put AI on it, it generates the first go of text for you to have a look at, and then somebody reads and says, is this right? So there has to be human in the loop.
Again,
So that's what I thought about when I said yes to that.
okay, very good, very good. No, but that's exactly how we try to get a bit depth in these questions. But please.
I actually supported that about AI generating text. In the same way, we talk about equitable communication. So you wanted to bring it in language barriers. I think there's a language barrier between scientists and policymakers. And I think if you have that generated directly by the scientist, you may not portray the language that the policymaker would understand. And I think AI could be a way of generating a level playing field if you bring in the scientific knowledge and then you verify it afterwards for accuracy. I think that's a really good way of using it. But I would not. That's why for everything else, like the large language models to interrogate, assess materials, I think it's much more when you've got the expertise, but you want to make it succinct and understandable.
That's a good nuance. So it would not be, in your interpretation, it's not the way how we synthesize the messages from the underlying literature, but we could use it in order to transform the text we use to actually communicate it to policymakers, and particularly to bridge that gap, like bridging the gap of non-native English speakers. Yeah. Now that's a good discussion, because we're also experiencing the use of AI, for instance, currently in the group that is drafting this special report on climate change in cities. And we are going to have a lead author meeting in January prior to this meeting, and we will discuss practices. And we are quite neutral yet. We have no regulations in place. We want to interrogate the authors. What did you do, and think through what would be appropriate, yes or no. And I guess this is helpful material.
Just to check if there are any, do you want to drill into any other questions
Just
before
maybe
we
one more
also-
question.
Yeah.
Yeah. So on that note, we know that AI, when generating text, has its utility. It has some help in terms of assessing material, maybe for CVs. But I want to flag one thing about using AI to generate graphical material in terms of figures. So one of the criticisms that we have faced in past assessment cycles is that our figures are bad. They don't communicate things very well. There are multiple panels here and there. It's very unwieldy. It's not fit for purpose, particularly as an executive summary. If AI can help with that in terms of making it more visual, making it more compelling, even though, as we know, if you have used AI to generate images, it can look a bit wonky. Will there be, I mean, I would like to ask the audience here, what are your initial thoughts if you see something that obviously looks like an AI image in an IPCC report? Any thoughts on that?
So I'm getting a second chance. So I worked in open access publishing for about 10 years. And that is a huge no-no, you know, like, yes, there is a committee on publication ethics, and most publishers are struggling with this because we have a lot of AI generated text. There's no way to verify it, and you cannot replicate peer review. So if this is going to be something that goes to the IPCC, I'd be saying, watch out. I think that's a very sensitive topic. What I would say is you can use AI to give you prompts of how you can communicate underlying data in a very effective way, but it should never be created by AI because it can have inconsistencies and there's no way to prove it afterwards.
Very firm response. Thank you. Comments here?
I think with the use of AI for graphical material, the purpose of it essentially is to ease communication, right? To be able to communicate a complex scientific concept to policymakers or the public who might be looking at it. I think there has to be a human aspect to it. I think consultation groups with people who need to understand the message would work a lot better than using AI for the generation of it. I think I also had a question on why these 5 questions were sort of pulled out. Are there certain challenges in these 5 areas that the IPCC is facing right now, to maybe in terms of manpower or to...
You want to answer that? I can answer that. Okay, so maybe, but
Well, it's a good point. We could have brought up other topics for sure, but indeed, as I said, we are experiencing use of AI by authors in the cities report, and we're having internal discussions on it, and we are producing guidelines, and part of this is actually inspired by these guidelines, I guess, and for instance, on graphics. Yeah, we can see the merit in bringing AI to actually, you know, do the sketching phase a bit faster, and as Winston says, to try to avoid that scientific reflex that you want to be complete in everything. So every start of a small figure always flourishes to a mushrooms to a big thing, and no one gets. So AI could help there, but we agree on your notion. But it's a no-go to just put that in the draft. But so that is actually, this is an example, but I like the idea of, say, the translation for non-experts as a new dimension that came in. The translation element is also a good topic. So there's quite a bit of things that we can go a bit more in depth in this workshop, I guess.
thanks. I think we have time for one final question.
It's more of a
Ma'am.
comment. I think the first response there is exactly the same thing that higher ed is struggling with, is how do we prepare the next generation of people who will be confronted with AI, and that idea of using it as sort of a guide and sort of a first place to go, but then working with very interdisciplinary groups to say, how do we communicate really complex information, not just the scientists, but people who are professional communicators, artists, and so on. So a combination, I think, is a really good idea.
So it's not a binary. It has to work together in that sense, but with very strong caveats. Yeah, okay. Thank you very much. I think we're almost out of time, and we've got a rich set of material from this engagement process that will be very helpful. So on behalf of Jim, I think Bart and I are very happy with this discussion. Now it leaves me to pass the floor back to Andre.
Thank you very much. And just to check if you have any parting thoughts about the feedback that you have received today from this event. Okay, we were hoping to bring in Jim, but he had to drop out for another event. So we will wrap up at this point. I would like to thank Bart and Winston for the event today. And in particular to thank all of you who have been with us in person and online, responding to these questions, which will very much help the shaping of the upcoming workshops. Thank you very much, and see you. We have another event starting at 12:15. Thank you very much.